a long time ago, there was this man named Naaman. And Naaman was the commander of a big army for the king of Aram. Now the problem is, even though he was a really good commander and a really good soldier, he had a really kind of scary disease for that time. It was leprosy. And leprosy, some things could happen, like your skin would fall off, and normally you can't be around other people. So with leprosy, he couldn't be in community with other people, he couldn't do fun things. So in that time, they would send out raids on other towns, and they would bring captives back. And Naaman sent out a raid and brought a captive back from Israel, and he brought a young girl, probably about Marley's age, and she became his wife's servant. And when she discovered that he had leprosy, she said, well, why doesn't he go and see the prophet of Israel? Because I know that he could heal him of leprosy. So when Naaman heard this story, he brought it to the king, his master, and he said, there's this prophet in Israel who could heal my leprosy. And the king said, well, go ahead and go to Israel, and I will send a letter with you that will introduce you and ask the king to heal you. So Naaman got together a whole bunch of gold and silver and a whole bunch of sets of clothes. Now, at this time, it wasn't like it is now, where we have as many clothes as we could want. Clothes were a really big deal, and so it was really expensive. He brought all this money, all of this expensive things to pay the king to heal his leprosy. And he brings a letter to the king, and the king is like, what? Am I God? I can't, what? Why are they trying to pick a fight with me? I'm not God. I can't heal his leprosy. And he was freaking out because he thought I was trying to start a war. And when the prophet Elisha heard that the king was all upset because he was being asked to heal leprosy, he said, dude, why didn't you just send for me? You know I heal. And so he said, send him to me. So the king of Israel sent Naaman and all of his servants over to Elisha. And they traveled, and they got up in front of Elisha's house. And they stopped, and the servants went in to introduce him. And Elisha sent out a messenger to Naaman. He didn't even come himself. He sent out a messenger. He said, oh, well, go and bathe in the Jordan 7 times. So dunk yourself, come back up, dunk yourself, come back up. And you will be completely healed. Everything will be like you never had the disease in the first place. But Naaman was like, how rude. He didn't even come out and say hi. I thought he would come out and wave his hands on my spots and that he would heal me. But the rivers in Damascus are much better. They're much cleaner. Why didn't he at least tell me to go there? And so he was in a fit. He starts taking off. And his servant said, you know something, Naaman? If Elisha had told you to do something really courageous or really big and challenging, you would have done it without thinking, right? And Naaman's like, yeah. Well, why not do this? What can it hurt? Why not just go bathe in the Jordan? So Naaman said, yeah, okay, you're right. He did. He went in. He dunked himself 7 times, and he came up, and it was like he'd never, ever been sick. Now, if you've never been able to be in front of people, if you've been so sick that it's deformed you, you can understand why he'd be so excited. And so he went hustling back to Elisha's house, and he sent all of his clothes in, all of the gold and silver in, and he was so excited. He's, thank you, thank you, thank you. Elisha said, do not give me anything. I will take no money for this. And Naaman said, well, if you won't take money, then at least, how about this? Can you send a bunch of soil from Israel, the land of Israel, with me, as much as I can carry on my donkeys, because that's what they used to carry stuff, as much as I can carry, so that when I get back, I can worship, because I will never worship any other God, because I know now, because I was healed, that truly there is only one God in the entire world, and that's the God of Israel. And if only God will forgive me this one thing. You know, my king, he still worships other gods, and I have to go with him into the temple. So when I go with him and I'm holding his arm, if God will please forgive me for bowing before another idol on those occasions. And Elisha said, it's all good. Go in peace. The end. All right. You ready for the questions? Okay. Who are the characters?
Naaman.
Naaman. Mm-hmm.
The king of Israel.
The king of Israel. Good.
Servant.
The servant girl. The servant girl or the servant who told him, hey, you know, get over yourself. Or both. Both. Anybody else?
Elijah.
Elisha. Yeah. All right. How does the story begin?
Naaman wants to get healed because he has the sickness.
Mm-hmm. And then what happens?
Then
How does he find out there's a way he can get healed? Some girl about Marley's age. What does she do?
she tells him that there's another person that can like a king that can heal you.
A prophet or a man of God. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, what happens after that? What happens next? So he finds out he can be healed. What happens next?
The king starts panicking because he thinks that he's starting a war.
Right.
He can't.
Very good. And how do all the characters interact? How do they act with each other? So the king is panicking. What else? What are some other ways they interact? What does Elisha do? He hears that the king is panicking. What does he do? He
says that he'll help him.
Yeah, he says he'll help him. Send him my way.
And then he tells him to go dunk in the river 7 times.
Very good. Mm-hmm. And who do you think are the most important characters in the story? Elisha. Mm-hmm. And Naaman? Yeah. Kind of weird names, right? And it's confusing because there's Elijah and there's an Elisha. This is Elisha. All right. Which one of the characters do you think is the most like you? So the question is, which one do you identify with the most? But really, which one do you think is the most like you? Any of them?
The one that said you should try to go in the water after he was trying to walk away.
Right. The one that, sure, okay, the one that was trying to talk some sense into Naaman when he was having a temper tantrum. Yeah, very good. What characteristics of God are seen in the story? So what can you understand about God from this story? He heals. Mm-hmm. Very good. Yeah, anything else? There might not be. Is there anything else?
Maybe he doesn't need to receive anything to help somebody.
Yeah, that's a really good observation. He doesn't have to be paid for his willingness to take care of us. Okay. What lessons have you learned from this story? It's a similar question, a little bit different. What lessons, if anything?
You should try to do things like go in the river.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't just walk away. You should at least try it. it might help, but you think it doesn't, but actually it
Mhm.
might, so you should try it.
What do you think kept Naaman from wanting to try it?
He probably didn't think it would work.
Uh-huh.
It's like too easy.
Too easy. Yeah, it felt like if you want something really big to happen, we feel like it should be hard to make it happen, right? Yeah. Um, what have you learned about God in this story?
He can help you.
He can help you. And I'm going to change this last question a little bit. Will you tell the story to somebody else? And if so, who?
Like family members.
Family members? It's kind of an interesting story. This is one of my favorite stories when I was a kid. Yeah, it was an interesting story. All right. Well, thank you for helping me.